everyone to our Business Launch Circle. I am Monique Bloxell and I'm bringing this show to you from the Business Launch portal. Every week we interview great entrepreneurs to share with us their inspiring story and great outstanding success stories they have started and built businesses successfully. And we also introduce and offer you tools, methods, steps, ideas of how you can rocket your own idea into enterprise. And today we have with us Daniela Gomes, because I cannot think of anyone better that can demystify the story to EU funding. And Daniela, I know that today you're going to open us the doors and lift up the curtain to the world of EU funding. And that's fantastic. And I cannot think of anyone better because Daniela, with her company Octopus and her partners, she helps people get access to the world of EU funding. And your clients in general have a 70% success rate of eventually getting EU money after they've done their proposal together with you, Daniela. Well, I'm not going to give a long introduction to who you are, but I'm sure that our audience is very interested to find out more about you. Daniela, would you mind saying and introducing yourself a little bit? Who is Daniela Gomes from the perspective of Daniela Gomes?
Well, first of all, Monique, I would like to thank you very, very much for having invited me for this amazing interview, which I'm totally thrilled. And yes, in fact, it's a very interesting question. Who is Daniela Gomes? Well, to start, I can tell everybody that I come from a family that is composed by people that always work for the government. So basically, I don't have any entrepreneur in my family. In fact, to be honest, I was the first one. And in fact, it's very interesting because I grew up on an environment where security was very important. So basically, the fact that my family gave importance to security, I felt that there was something out there that was not matching what I really wanted. And the fact is that I'm the kind of person that I always loved and still love to take risks because it's something that really excites me. And by the way, what is security? In fact, I don't know what is security, to be honest. So the fact that I come from a family that always worked to the government, well, in fact, doesn't mean anything of what I am now. Also, to answer who is Daniela Gomes, well, I'm Portuguese, and I was born in Macau, a former Portuguese colony located in South China, next to Hong Kong. And in fact, I call myself as a transnational person. I don't have any land, any country, to be honest. If my country is China or Portugal, well, honestly, I don't know. But the fact is that I'm an entrepreneur and I didn't even reach 30s yet, but I'm really happy with what I'm doing with my business. And yes, and for me, it's a pleasure to help companies, namely SMEs, to get EU funds, because in fact, there are lots of things to get with EU funds. Although we know that many people out there, they are afraid when they hear from the expression EU funds, because in complex world, and my company, we are specialists on this, and we talk the European Union language, the technical language. So with this kind of particular language, we do help companies, namely SMEs, in accessing a variety of EU funding instruments.
I find it absolutely fascinating, Daniela, especially now that I know where you come from, China, and of course Portugal is already closer to Brussels, to the big, European tank. But I know that a lot of you spoke about SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises. I know a lot of smaller entrepreneurs with smaller businesses and also bigger ones. They think that EU funding is not for them at all, right? They think that it's probably a million times harder to get access to an EU fund than to win the lottery, right? So what would you say to these people? How can you demystify their thinking?
Well, first of all, as I already said before, EU funding is a very complex world to understand. although there are plenty of opportunities to get out from the EU funding. And for those people that think that EU funding doesn't mean anything for small or medium-sized enterprises or even micro enterprises, I can guarantee that they are totally wrong. Because regarding a variety of EU funding programs, because there are plenty of them, we have to choose the right ones that really match of what a micro enterprise or what a small or a medium enterprise really intends to do. First of all, I also need to know what is the specialty from this particular company. Are you an eco-innovative company, or do you work in marketing related issues, or do you work in communications? Are you a company, a small company that works in, for example, biotechnology or nanotechnology or in energy related issues? Anyway, you have a variety of matters that you can deal with when it comes to EU funding. And my company normally helps these companies to make a match between the programs, the funding programs that are still open or the ones that will be open, and the ideas, the project ideas that normally these companies bring to my company. And we help these companies to analyze the ideas that they have in hand. And of course, and normally these ideas should be very innovative, and they should address not only to one country, but to as many countries as possible. In this case, the European Union. Well, in fact, just to be generous and not to be too specific, because this is a very complex matter that I have to deal on a daily basis, I just would like to tell to everybody that you have plenty of opportunities when it comes to dealing with EU funds. And if you want to know more in specific about EU funds, you can always address it to me, and then we can have a more specific conversation about this.
Yes, and once our audience doesn't have the opportunity to speak to you directly, but I do, let me ask you on their behalf. Can you maybe give us a little bit of a glimpse of what kind of EU funding programs are out there, and for what type of organization are they interesting?
Well, to start, I will mention one particular funding program, which is my favorite and the one that I have much more experience with, which is called Eco-Innovation. And it's a program that is still open, and the deadline to apply for this funding program is on 5th September 2013. And it's a program that it's a very business-driven instrument, and it's dedicated mostly to small and medium-sized enterprises. And what does eco-innovation mean exactly? It means that you have a small or medium-sized enterprise that has an innovative product or an innovative process or technology that is eco-innovative, that addresses the environment. And basically, you already have that product, but the fact is that you still didn't commercialize this product yet. And with this funding program, you will need extra incentives from the European Commission to help your product to be successfully commercialized after 1 or 2 years. And for this particular program, you need to make a SWOT analysis, a business plan that goes up to 2 or 3 years before the real commercialization of this process or product. And of course, the fact is that it's an eco-innovative product. You will have to address environmental issues. Your product or your process needs to prove that you will reduce the environmental impact in the European Union. And prior for one organization to commercialize this particular product in the European Union market as a whole, you'll have to perform a very detailed market research, and you have to target to start 3 different countries where you intend to commercialize your product after the final tests have been performed before the market replication of this particular product or technology. And then afterwards, once you are on the process of commercialization of this product, you will need to contact potential investors. And of course, you will also have to contact possible clients that would like to buy your product. But of course, prior to that, the environmental advantage and also the economical advantages of your product. Because of course, if you don't prove it, how can you find more investors and also more clients for this particular product? And thanks to that, to this particular instrument, which is eco-innovation, the European Union lets your small and medium-sized company to make real business while you will also address environmental issues, which will be, after all, beneficial for the whole European Union.
It sounds great. Thank you for the glimpse into the Eco Innovation Program. And that triggered quite a range of questions on my side, Daniela. The first question is maybe just to take again a little bit of an eagle perspective. What other programs are out there? Can you just give us a very quick overview?
Yes, of course, there are plenty of programs out there, and one of them is called Life Plus. And this particular program also addresses environmental issues, but it's totally different from the one that I described before, which was eco-innovation. Life Plus addresses environmental problems, such as, for example, soil pollution, waste management, water pollution, or even noise pollution. And with Life Plus, you will need to demonstrate the feasibility of your project idea. If you want to address a particular environmental program, you will need to perform a wide demonstration, a large-scale project to prove that the environmental problems do really exist not only in your country but also throughout Europe. And then another program which I would like also to mention, which is called FP7, and it's called FP7, which is known as a seventh framework research program. It's a very complex program, and it's mostly addressed to research centers or universities, because these kind of organizations are the ones that perform real research. And just to let you know that FP7, it's a program that finances research-driven activities. And you also have much more, like, for example, one program that was already closed, and I worked on that, which was Intelligent Energy Europe. And it's a funding program that addresses, as you could already hear from the name, that addresses energy-related issues, like, for example, renewable energies, energy saving, and also the use of energy in transport.
Well, honestly, to me, it all sounds a little bit like Chinese, Daniela. This is why we have you and Octopus. But how can people, besides getting in touch with you and working with Octopus, is there any way that they can get a first path through the jungle? Are there any kind of resources, any kind of, organizations or web pages that they could look into just to get a rough idea of, what programs are out there and which program applies to them?
Well, first of all, people can easily log on to the European site, or simply they can go to Google and they can just type their EU funding programs, and then you will see that you will receive an extensive list of funding programs that are available by the European Union. Or if you want to have a more tailor-made summary of these kind of available funding programs, then everybody's also welcome to address directly to me. And you can also log on to the website of my company, and you can just drop an email or just phone directly to our office, and we will pick it up and we will address any kind of issue that everybody might have.
It's wonderful, and it is, as you said earlier, to us, once we don't know, what the opportunities are to tap into EU funding, it sounds like Chinese, and you said it yourself at the beginning. It's a language that you need to learn, basically. It's a different way of speaking.
Exactly.
And Daniela, I still wonder, we are also talking always about EU funding. Is it really only for, European companies that these kind of funds apply, or are there also other programs and funds for people outside the EU? Just to be sure.
Of course, there are some programs that organizations or companies that come from outside the EU can apply without any problem. Although the ones that are open at the moment are mostly open to EU countries, and also for some associated countries, for example, such as Montenegro, Turkey, Serbia, Croatia, Bulgaria, even Russia, for example. But yes, some countries, such as, for example, India, China, or even Malaysia, can also apply for some funding programs without any problem. It's just a matter for us to know exactly countries or what type of organizations are eligible. And another thing that I didn't mention before that we have to be extremely careful is to analyze the eligibility criteria. And normally that's my specialty, to analyze the criteria that are required for organizations to participate in these kind of programs. But yes, to confirm your question, there are several funding programs where not only European Union-based organizations are eligible. So just to tell to everybody that whether you come from the US or from China or even from Brazil, you can easily apply to certain funding programs that are out there. And if you are confused about it, you can always contact me directly, and then I will explain you everything in detail without any problem.
It's wonderful because I know that we have quite some people on these shows that are from the US and Latin America and Asia as well. So that's great too. Thank you for opening the doors to them as well.
My pleasure.
Well, Daniela, you paved the path to the next logical question. You were speaking about eligibility criteria. Can you tell us who can apply for programs? And I guess that is different from program to program. So maybe just pick one, maybe give some more general eligibility criteria and then maybe more specific ones for a program that you could pick.
Okay, so to start with the general eligibility criteria, just to let you know that only legal persons can be part of these kind of programs, meaning that natural persons such as freelancers, they cannot participate in these funding programs. So basically, you should be a company or even a nonprofit organization. And to be more specific, if I pick up specifically a program such as the one that I mentioned before, Eco-Innovation, for this program, SMEs are the main target of this program. So it means that the project leader under this program must be a small and medium-sized enterprise, although universities, research centers, or even larger companies can be part of this kind of funding program, but they can only join as partners. They could never join as a project leader. A leader should be a small and medium-sized enterprise. And once again, natural persons or freelancers, they cannot join as a partner in these kind of programs, only legal persons.
Right. And you mentioned earlier that there's some other criteria, like for example, that you should, plan to go international and not just work in your own local market, but also involve some other countries. Can you say more about that and maybe about other criteria that are there?
Exactly. So basically, with these kind of programs, of course, they are called European Union funding programs. It means that the objectives of your ideas or of your projects, they should address international issues. You shouldn't address local problems or national problems. You should always start with what's going on nationally, but then you should transpose it to an international base. And you also have to take into account other criteria, which is, for example, just to give an example, one legal person or one company to be able to participate in these kind of funding programs, they should be financially stable, meaning that they shouldn't be on bankruptcy or on an almost bankruptcy situation, or they shouldn't have been accused of misconduction, for example, or a company or an organization shouldn't be on court, shouldn't have any kind of legal problems, which is the European Commission in this case. They will simply make a detailed scanning of your company if you have a stable legal situation or if you have a stable financial situation. So basically, your organization should be stable in any kind of ways. So just to let you know that stay out of trouble, because if you are in trouble, you cannot join these kind of EU funding programs.
But let's assume that the people that listen here and the entrepreneurs that are listening here are definitely not in trouble. And just the next question, Daniela, you also mentioned that they have to be financial viable, right?
Exactly.
The question is, what about startups that don't really have a big track record yet of success, and that might not have a lot of money in their back pocket? This is why they apply for such EU funding? Are there programs that are specifically also to help startup entrepreneurs, and maybe even the Eco Innovation Project? Is that a program that also startups can apply for?
Well, thank you very much for mentioning the role of startups, because in fact, startups, they can apply for eco-innovation, for example. But of course, we know that startups, they still don't have 100% financial stability. But the European Commission also gives a special treatment for startups that want to be enrolled in these kind of funding programs. And taking into account the example of eco-innovation, for example, if a startup company, eco-innovative startup company, wants to be involved in eco-innovation, the European Commission normally asks for a business plan, a business plan drafted by this startup company. And of course, the fact that this company doesn't have financial stability yet, but as long as the company is able to provide a detailed business plan and submit it to the European Commission, so there won't be any kind of problem, because of course we know that startups are very important in Europe, and now it's like a trend now. And of course, we shouldn't definitely close the doors to startups, because they're really, really important for not only for the EU in general, but also for the world. But of course, besides eco-innovation, there are also other programs offered by the European Union to startup companies, like, for example, loan programs, or even programs where, for example, the European Commission has a partnership with certain national banks from the European Union countries. And startups, they don't need necessarily any kind of guarantee to prove the banks that they can give back all the money that they were asking as a loan. Normally, because we know that many banks, nowadays they refuse to provide any kind of loan to startup companies due to many reasons, and one of them is the crisis. But in this case, the European Commission acts as a guarantee to help these startups to not to have their loans denied by their national banks to where they are applying for a loan. So, which is something very, very good. At least I would like to show that the European Union can be known as a very bureaucratical system, but in fact, it's working really hard, not only to help already stable companies, but the European Union is also helping very hard startups to make their own way towards success. So that's why the European Commission also acts as a guarantee to help these startups to have successfully their loans delivered to their bank accounts, and then afterwards they can successfully start with their own activities without having their loans rejected by the banks.
I find it very interesting what you're saying, because I think a lot of people that when they think of getting funded by the EU, they think of receiving physical money, but you just described that there's other ways of support, like, for example, giving a guarantee to a bank. Are there other elements of support that the EU supports these entrepreneurs with, besides money?
Of course, besides money, you also have other kinds of activities that European Commission offers to support these kind of startups. For example, throughout Europe, but starting from Brussels, where I'm based, here you have plenty of events, plenty of conferences, plenty of seminars that are not only organized by the European Commission itself, but also by many organizations that partner together with the European Commission. And normally these kind of events are for free, especially for startup companies that would like to show to the whole world that they have an amazing and innovative product, that they know that they can use it and thrive to success with it. And there are plenty of events where startup entrepreneurs can easily join, and they don't need to offer too much things, or they don't even have to pay any penny to join these kind of events. They just need an innovative idea and lots of ambition, and they have to show that they are not even afraid to fail, because we know that in this world there are many ideas out there, but not all of them are realized, not all of them are made reality. So here in Brussels there are many events happening, I would say, on a daily basis, that are specifically addressed to startup companies and startup companies or startup entrepreneurs that would like to come here to Brussels and to show their innovative ideas or their innovative products. Or, for example, if they would like to even to find a co-founder or a feasible partner for their company, then they definitely should come here to Brussels and join these kind of events, and just to not to be shy and just to show what you have to show and hopefully to strive towards success.
Yeah, it sounds really good. And it's exactly what you said. These events are networking opportunities and so on.
Exactly.
Well, Daniela, there is another question that you said, even if people are aware of their eligibility criteria of, when can they really apply to for what kind of funding program, what can entrepreneurs and startup entrepreneurs do to increase their chances to eventually also receive funding and other support from the EU?
Well, to increase their chances to have support from the EU, first of all, I would suggest that the startup entrepreneurs, they should definitely find the right contacts, because if startup entrepreneurs decide to act alone, it would be very difficult for them to get where they want to get. And for example, they could also address directly to my company, because we don't only help these startup entrepreneurs ourselves, we do also connect them to other entrepreneurs or to other consultancies that are also able to help these startup entrepreneurs to thrive and to build wings on their way. So basically, just to let everybody know that they shouldn't definitely be afraid. They should open their eyes to many opportunities that are out there, because they do exist. It's just a matter to find the right contacts and be on the right place and on the right time.
Yes. Well, Daniela, I would like to end our conversation. You've given us so many hints and open doors to the EU and taught us a little bit of, how to find the right programs for our business and how to speak EU language a little bit. And I know you also do that in trainings, but I'd like to come back to a more, your own journey and close our conversation with again looking at your own entrepreneurial journey. And I think Octopus was the first business that you built yourself. What so far have you learned? You said that you're not even 30 yet, and I love especially to work with young entrepreneurs like yourselves. What have you learned along the journey, and how did stepping out of a job and building and running your own business, how did that influence yourself so far? What were your key learnings, and what did you gain along the way?
Well, if there's something that I really learned since I stepped out my former job and embraced entrepreneurship, I definitely learned how to be patient, because patience is something that normally I didn't have before. And in fact, something that I learned is that if you want to succeed, you need to have lots of patience, especially in the beginning. But of course, you should never give up on your dreams and on what you really believe that you can make it. But prior to that, we need to have lots of patience, and it's something that I really, really learned to embrace patience. And another thing that I also learned was to relax a little bit, basically to make business on a more Zen way. Okay, of course, we also have to, here in our company, we also have to perform our activities on a fast-paced environment, but to eliminate the high stress levels that sometimes they appear in our work environment, I did my best to embrace the Zen way of thinking. And I do believe that it's one of the best ways to perform our activities on a daily basis, to work on a fast-paced environment, but at the same time to enjoy what you're doing, and especially if you feel peaceful with what you are performing, with the jobs that you're doing on a daily basis, then I do believe that's the best way to walk towards success.
I love what you're saying, and I think that's really what it is. It's patience, doing it in a Zen way and also taking time to relax and also having fun every single day are just very important ingredients to success as an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
Well, Daniela, I'm sure that you triggered quite some interest in finding out more about EU funding opportunities. Where can people find you? How can they get in touch with you if they indeed have more questions to you?
Well, it's very easy. Just log on to the website of my company and or just drop an email, or people can simply phone me, or if they can find me on Skype, they can also add me on Skype, and normally I'll do my best to be available to everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm sure a lot of our people that we had on today really got encouraged by you to not see the EU as this big tank black or this black box that we sometimes see when we look at it, but that they got encouraged to find out more. And I'm sure one or the other entrepreneur that has been with us today will absolutely benefit from tapping into the EU funding pots, and some of them hopefully also with your help. Well, Daniela, again, thank you very much for being with us today, and
Thank you,
maybe we
Monique.
have you back. I know you have so many more stories to tell and ideas to
Yes,
share. Wonderful to have you
always new stories every day. And Monique, thank you very much for this amazing interview. I really, really enjoyed it. And yes, we will keep on talking as we normally talk on a daily basis.